live in an era when our relationship with technology is changing in a fundamental way. For the first time in human history, we have a technology that appears to be capable of something akin to human intelligence. No doubt we're all familiar with ChatGPT and other large language models and how impressive they are at answering questions, writing essays, even computer programs and poetry. But a significant milestone may have been achieved with a recent paper arguing that large language models have passed the Turing Test. This test was proposed in 1950 by the mathematician, computer science pioneer, and World War II codebreaker, Alan Turing. The idea is a very simple one. If a human interrogator can't reliably distinguish between a machine and a human participant by asking them questions via text, then the machine is said to have passed the Turing test and hence to be intelligent. In the recent study, an advanced large language model was judged to be the human 73% of the time. In other words, it appeared to be more human than the human participants. AI is having a huge impact in our world, and it can have a lot of benefits in areas like science, medicine, and business. Last year, 2 of the Nobel Prizes were awarded for work on AI, and there's a lot of scope here for giving us greater understanding of many medical conditions and the ability to develop effective treatments. Nevertheless, AI also raises some profound concerns relating to 2 fundamental issues. First, what does it mean to be human? And second, it raises ethical questions about how we should live in the modern world. There are many issues that we could mention here, but let's think about jobs as an example. The idea that AI could perform many of our jobs, perhaps most of our jobs. At one level, this sounds wonderful, but what impact does that have on society and human dignity? Or consider the potential for deepfakes and misinformation, the repercussions there in terms of manipulation and the consequences for our political systems. Or consider the growing tendency for young people to turn to ChatGPT for advice. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, recently said that young people don't really make life decisions without asking ChatGPT what they should do. It seems to me that in all of these areas, we need to think very carefully about human values and dignity and relationships. And I would suggest that a Christian viewpoint gives us a foundation for thinking about those values and where they come from, and a framework for how we should use AI, not least in ensuring that we don't blur the distinction between humans who are made in God's image and the technologies that we ourselves have created. But perhaps this distinction between humans and AI is not as clear-cut as I've been suggesting. After all, if the Turing test has been passed, then some will claim that we already have intelligent AI. Some have argued that AI could become conscious, and indeed in a recent paper entitled "Taking AI Welfare Seriously," the authors argue that there's a realistic possibility that some AI systems will be conscious in the near future. That means that the prospect of AI welfare is no longer an issue only for sci-fi. AI companies and other actors have a responsibility to start taking it seriously. So should we be thinking along these lines? Should we be attributing moral significance to AI systems and thinking about their well-being? Well, I don't think so, and I don't have time to go into this, but I would argue that AI has no genuine understanding. Passing the Turing test would be a very impressive achievement technically, but really all that's going on is we've got very complex statistical algorithms that are good at predicting appropriate text in response to your prompt. But that gives us no reason whatsoever for thinking that they have understanding or awareness. So I'm not remotely worried about AI becoming conscious, but I do worry that we're going to increasingly begin to think about AI in human-like ways. And finally, let me turn to AI and the future of humanity. We're seeing an increasing trend with leading AI companies to try to develop artificial general intelligence, or AGI, which would be able to solve a range of problems at a similar level to humans. It's speculated that it could go beyond that. We could have the singularity that would lead to an explosion in intelligence and ultimately superintelligence, leaving us poor humans in its wake. Now, when we think about this, then where does that leave us? Some people are worried about this. They think this could spell the end of humanity. But others embrace a transhumanist perspective. Essentially, their idea is that we could use AI and neurotechnology to upgrade ourselves. We could overcome the limitations of these physical bodies. We could acquire new godlike capabilities, and we could overcome unhappiness, suffering, and even death. Now, most of this is in the realm of science fiction, but it's interesting that the idea of using AI as to provide something like a secular salvation seems to be prominent among some of the gurus of the tech industry. Consider, for example, the use of brain-computer interfaces by Elon Musk's Neuralink to enable people with serious disabilities to control a computer by reading their thoughts. Now, no doubt this technology is very beneficial for people in that position, but his ultimate goal is to achieve a symbiosis with artificial intelligence. Changing what it means to be human is clearly on the agenda. In conclusion, I would say that AI has a lot of potential benefits. However, given the influence of materialist and secular worldview in Western culture, perhaps it's not surprising that when we consider the development of advanced AI, we're beginning to blur the distinction between human and machine, and that some of the most influential people on the planet are trying to upgrade humanity through the use of technology. Given the potentially disastrous consequences of these tendencies, there's never been a more important time to articulate a Christian vision of who we are as humans and how we should live in the age of AI.